Got a T-Mobile network update for you guys. So recently, we got the results from Ookla, and T-Mobile won all categories across the board. First time ever in company's history. Now, T-Mobile also attached on how they achieved that. T-Mobile dominates in new 5G studies and advances 5G with carrier aggregation. Now, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is nothing new. We've been seeing aggregation during LTE in a big way. More so for AT&T because they've had smaller channels. So with AT&T, we've seen 6, 7 LTE carrier aggregation or channels. With T-Mobile, not so much because they've had more wider chunks of channels. So they were able to do the full 20 megahertz. Now on 5G with the N41 and some counties and cities having the fragmentation issue, this is going to come in handy because now in those areas you can aggregate 40 megahertz with 40 megahertz and get 80 where you can't do it contiguously. And for markets that have 100 megahertz contiguously, to move beyond 100 megahertz, you have to aggregate more N41 channels. One N41 channel can only go up to 100 megahertz. So to go to 120, 140, they'll have to aggregate another N41 channel. And they'll have to do it for El Paso because the spectrum here is has a lot of fragmentation, and other cities and counties as well. It's not contiguous nationwide like Verizon. Verizon C-band was contiguous across the board. So this is going to get very, very competitive this year. And I'm looking forward to it. So T-Mobile is going to pull out all the stops. They're going to pull out the aggregation. They're going to pull out the voice over NR at some point. They're going to do the standalone core aggregation. They're going to pull it out. They're going to pull out the stops. My question remains and still is, when are they going to open the backhaul pipes? They're going to have to open them. They're going to have to. If you look at LTE, if you understand the basics, they're going to have to up the backhaul. That's your backbone. That's your bread and butter. Without that, if you don't have enough backhaul on air to support what's on air, then you're losing. If you have more bandwidth on air than what your backhaul can push, it makes no sense for you to put all that bandwidth on air. Perfect example, Verizon. They're at 60, like I said, they have contiguous, so they're at 60 across the board. Where C-band is launched, it's 60 megahertz everywhere. It's not some counties it's 40, some it's 20, some it's 60. No, it's 60 in every city that it's launched. So now, on an NSA basis, you add the LTE carriers, which everyone is doing right now. T-Mobile's doing the same. So then with Verizon, you'll get to a little bit over 100 megahertz in some markets total aggregated with the LTE carriers. Same with T-Mobile. So in some of those markets where Verizon is faster, T-Mobile actually has way more spectrum on air. Some markets, they have 100 megahertz N41, then 20 on LTE with band 2, 20 on band 4. So they'll have like 140 megahertz, and Verizon is still faster across the board. So that tells you the backbone of Verizon's is better. It's fed with higher backhaul. And that, once Verizon is able to open up the pipes more, means they're immediately going to be faster across the board, unless T-Mobile pays to up that backhaul. And they're going to have to do it in a big way because Verizon's not going to cut corners. They're going to have to. Their business right now is capital intensive. That's going to slow down when they have the fiber deployed where they want to deploy it. Then they're going to cut back on the CapEx because they no longer have to deploy the fiber. And guess what? They save a ton of money on OpEx. That's going to slow down. And their fiber speeds are going to be incredible. By that time, they'll go from right now, a lot of the routers are still 1 gig. Verizon has to go upgrade them to 10, and then eventually they'll go to 25 gig. T-Mobile's OpEx is just going to keep going up and up and up, just like your rent. Each year, your apartment The rent goes up a little bit due to the market conditions, and it's the same with fiber. T-Mobile can tell us they got great market rates. There's competition. If you go from 10 to 25 gigs, you're going to pay more. You're just going to do it. You go from 1 to 10, you pay more. You go from 10 to 25, you pay more rates. You pay more rates per fiber site. Yeah, you may have gotten a discount or a deal, but you're still going to pay more. You're not going to pay less going from 10 to 25 gigs. Not going to happen. So, good to see T-Mobile is doing the aggregation. Great to see. What I want to now see is, are they going to unlock the full capabilities of the spectrum that's on air? The spectrum that's on air can go much, much faster, but it's being held back by the backhaul. So we'll see what they do over the coming days and weeks. Verizon is all in. I'm already seeing speeds of 900 megabits a second. That's rare to see even on an empty sector with T-Mobile. I've had some recently show me a few speed tests over a gig. That's good to see. And then some have shown me, I'm peaking at 800, which is also good to see. But with T-Mobile and the spectrum that they have on air now and going to 120, 140 megahertz, it's time to start seeing the 1.5, 1.6 gig speed tests. Because that's what they really have on air. They can really push that. So, and for both, just to throw that in, 90% of the speed that's being associated with that is coming from C-band and N41. So some of that, of course, is coming from LTE, but most of that is coming from the NR side. So just keep that in mind as you look at the results. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe to the channel. Follow the social media outlets for more updates and interactions. Thanks again for watching. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. I will see you in the next one. Peace.